I think in line with my values and that I was eating organic food and drinking clean water and helping other people see that this is potential, that this is possible. And the reality as well is that I'm not doing this alone. I mean, there are so many people who have been not only inspired by my work, but also have been getting a similar message and realizing, like, you know what? The cities are where they're building smart cities. The cities are going to get even more difficult to remain free in the coming years. And I'd rather live a little bit outside the city or maybe in a smaller town or some people, of course, moving from California to Texas or to Florida, or people coming from Europe to Mexico during COVID whenever things were really bad. People are making real moves and thinking about what's the best for their future and not waiting for government to save us. And I think that's ultimately my key message. I'm not here to say that my path is the one path and that's the only answer. I think that would be silly. But I do believe that people should at least think about what's coming and prepare for that, not live in fear, not live in like everything's screwed and there's no hope, because I don't believe that as well. But we would be silly to not see what's on the horizon and at least to take steps to make sure that if those things do come and we're not able to prevent them, if digital identities come and social credit scores and mass surveillance to a level we've never seen it, and facial recognition scanning, all these things that are in development, central bank digital currencies, that making sure you're not dependent on those systems is probably the key. That's at least what I believe is the key. Because if you sit and do nothing, or if you sit around and wait for politicians, then when those systems roll out, you're going to be dependent on them. Just a lot of people were dependent on getting the COVID shot or getting a PCR test during COVID because they had no other plan. They were awake, but they didn't do anything. And then all of a sudden they're like, okay, I can't work if I don't get the shot. I can't travel if I don't get the shot. I don't want to get it. I don't believe in it, but I have no other plan. I have no food put away. I have no skills. I have no backup plan. So I guess I'll just gamble and go ahead and get that. And that's what a lot of people had to do. But there were others who did take it seriously and who completely changed their life, their habits, their path in order to reorient it to make it more conducive to actual liberty. And I think that's the key, is just each of us need to decide what systems do we need to do we want to interact with as we move forward, and that's going to be different person to person. For me, for example, one example, as they roll out facial recognition everywhere in the airports, and it's becoming increasingly difficult to avoid it right now. For example, in the United States, you can still say no, you can opt out of it, but that will change, and there's discussions about that being mandatory by 2026 or 2028. And for me, that'll be the end of me flying commercially. Like, I'm not going to comply with that. I'm not going to participate and just make excuses, because I think we need to have red lines. We need to know what we won't put up with and be aware of that while we focus our energy on what we actually do want.